That's certainly not a charge you could see levelled against this vehicle, the new Toyota Previa. It's like a giant egg on wheels, something you'd expect to find on a designer's doodle pad, but they've gone ahead and made it. It's a big vehicle. It's in the same class as the Volkswagen Transporter, and it's quite a lot bigger than Renault's Espace. Inside, the styling is just as unconventional, very space-age looking, deep scallops in front of the driver and passenger, and this very prominent centre binnacle bringing the radio and heater controls within easy reach. Lots of stowage space both in the front and the back of the vehicle. Previa is a full 8-seater compared to the Transporter, although this extra seat does rather restrict access to the interior of the vehicle, but you can push the middle row forward and then all occupants have plenty of leg and head room. And an aspect of the sheer length of the vehicle, there's plenty of luggage space, even with 3 rows of seats. Now, if you need more luggage space, this rear row folds up very neatly against the side of the vehicle. This one does the same, and then you've got an enormous amount of storage area. What you mustn't do when you put it down again is what I did and pull the release. The back flies up and smacks you in the face. Now, the remarkable design of Previa is continued in the mechanical layout. They put the engine between the front seats, but they've laid it on its side, so you really wouldn't know it was there. As you'd expect, with an engine in this position, access is pretty disastrous, a mechanic's nightmare through a tiny little hatch. But it's only intended for reaching the dipstick and refilling the sump after an oil change. All the routine maintenance of checking the levels, including topping up the engine oil reservoir, is done under the bonnet. And that's where you'll find the battery and air filter, but also the alternator and the power steering pump. They're driven by a jack shaft running forward from the engine itself. The old Toyota Space Cruiser had a reputation for excessive understeer and instability under braking. Well, thanks to its mid-engine design, the new Previa has none of those problems. Handling is very safe and secure, although the ride does tend to float a bit over bumps. Braking is now very powerful, but it's a nonsense the UK importers of the Previa have decided not to offer anti-lock brakes even as an option when you can get alloy wheels and a silly spoiler on the rear tailgate. Performance is good thanks to tall gearing and the slippery shape. It does over 112 miles an hour, and 0 to 60 in 11.3 certainly won't leave you at the traffic lights. The gear change, though, is controlled by cables. That's enough to send any former Maxi owner screaming off into the woods. It's a lot better than the dreadful change in the old VW Transporter, but it's certainly not as good as the best Japanese changes. Despite its size and weight, the Previa is an easy vehicle to drive. It feels like a car on the road, the steering is light, and the turning circle isn't at all bad. And in this high driving position, you get a good view of the road. They've certainly cracked the ventilation problem. 3 of the windows in the back are able to hinge open, and the heating and ventilation at the front here is very effective. £18,000, the Previa is actually very good value for money when you stack it up against the opposition. It's got the extra seating capacity over Renault's Espace, and it's also got luggage carrying capacity as well. With this extraordinary shape, it's got tremendous eye appeal. It's much more of a car than just a van with seats inside.